Hello, my name is Lou,
And I'm Katie.
and you're listening to Files from the Other Side. This week, we're opening up the files on.
The universal law.
Yeah. Take that, universe.
In your face,
We're
the
going to
universe.
try to tackle your nonsense.
I I it was such a bad moment where you said nonsense and I in my head heard Linda Belcher be like, Mom sense.
You know what? Sometimes those primordial forces, they do be being moms and dads up in there for whatever good and bad that is. Sky Daddy, save me.
Ah! Sorry, I was not expecting that. Woof. Okay.
Well, beyond universal law, we also wanted to include the Men in Black phenomenon.
I was like, how do we? Yeah, also the Men in Black. Are they the enforcers of the universal law? Are they the enforcers of some sort of galactic federation law? Well, Lou's going to enlighten us a little bit on that.
So, Men in Black, generally speaking, usually appear near UFO sightings for the purpose of silencing witnesses, especially near UFO sightings that have debris. Okay, they are categorized in lore as tall, expressionless, or faceless pale men wearing all black suits and sometimes black sunglasses. John Keel, famous for the Mothman prophecies, noted that Men in Black were demonic supernaturals. But when reading his content, he had really racist connotations to describe these beings. So it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? When you're demonizing something, that tends to be what happens. But he ultimately said that he believed that they were there to represent experiences outside of consensus reality. Interesting, right? I think that's the most interesting part.
Definitely.
Which I think is how it has to do with universal law, because Men in Black in popular culture are often associated with earthly governments as if their job is for the local government and also for an intergalactic agency. The idea then being that any universal law upheld is also upheld by the government interacting on Earth. Which I don't think is fucking true, so
I went with a very metaphysical approach to what I thought universal law was. I mean, of course, I also floated at some point like some sort of like again like from Rick and Morty, the Galactic Federation. Like, was that
well,
something? But
that's where you get the popular culture influence of how metaphysical concepts can be applied in our lore, right? Which is an interesting point I always say in the paranormal, because that's how lore changes and adapts. So like maybe one time a vampire didn't have let's say they weren't allergic to the sun, like in one lore, but they are in another.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Dracula can walk around during the day
There you go.
and
I'm just
not
saying.
sparkle.
But now, like, when we talk about vampires, like, that's, like, a very, like, oh, but they can't be in the sun. You know, it's,
Yeah.
like, a universal law. But it's, like, okay, we'll get into universal law and how that works. But, like, the MIB, I guess I'm just saying that they're not... to say that they are involved in earthly governments, I think, is a little cray-cray. However, I do think that they can appear as a paranormal phenomenon. I just do not think that they have the same means to an end as a earthly government does.
No, probably not.
Anyways, my personal experience with MIBs is I've seen
I was gonna ask.
yeah, like I've seen faceless tall men dressed in black. The particular instance was after we saw the UFO last year. Yeah, and me and Shayla and Cheyenne had been investigating continuously after we saw the UFO last year, and we were trying to communicate, and it seemed like the MIBs had something to say about our communication afterwards, or just having been witness to the UFO sighting itself. However, there were no debris, so I don't know. I eventually concluded that the sightings were a warning from the MIB about a different thing. I don't think that a warning from the MIB was a warning to say you shouldn't be privy to this information, like we're going to snap your memory, like you what is it saying, the outside, I think the outside of consensus reality is really where I think it applies, because me, Shayla, Cheyenne, Haley, and Courtney all saw this UFO. However, we are we all only have the narrative and no actual physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So technically speaking, our story is outside of consensus reality, being like a white nationalist, cis hetero patriarchy of Christo nationalists.
I'm sorry, what?
Um,
Those too many things string together.
Basically just like the society set up as the systems as they are. Like
Okay.
consensus, because when I talk about consensus reality, like, are we
Evidence,
talking about,
empirical,
yeah,
like,
empirical evidence, like, is according to this
okay.
standard. I could have also just
Yeah.
said Western, but like,
No, specificity is good. I'm just so tired.
I
And
know.
that, like, it was so many things. And I was like, wait, I lost you like 3 adjectives ago. What are we describing?
Because, like, technically speaking, in the group of the five of us, consensus reality is that we saw what we saw.
Yeah.
But, like, on the larger scale, it's a story of five girls who saw maybe something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so
I mean, I believe you. I don't think 5 people all hallucinated the same shit. Like,
no.
that's one of my favorite UFO incidents is the Allagash incident, because fucking all 4 of those boys were having the same fucking nightmares, you know? Like, how do 4 people have the same nightmare? How do 4 people hallucinate the same exact fucking thing? Like,
Yeah. I think that the reason I think the MIBs came was because I think they were less. It was more about consensus reality, I guess is what I was trying to say, and less about us having meddled too much, like meddling kids,
yeah.
or like. But I also don't want to extend it to it being so urgently dangerous that our lives were in danger. Like, they weren't warning us in that. It was just kind of like, to me, it seems like a symptom. It's like you
Yeah.
see the thing, and then maybe how your perception just like engages. Now you can see this thing too because they have something to do with that, according to universal law and consensus reality. So,
Yeah.
and also as a good paranormal investigator, I feel like these things are worth taking note because, at least as far as I practice, like every moment of experiencing is worth taking note as a paranormal investigator, because then you can really tell what the fuck is paranormal when you're monitoring a good baseline for life, you know?
Yeah.
And just my thing is I don't typically see faceless men dressed in all black. And one night outside on my street, I did see one. So, I don't know.
How long was he there for?
Oh, he was just like walking down the street, and then he walked really close to our house, and then like disappeared like by the gate, like as if he was gonna come up into the yard into the house, and then he disappeared. And then I also should mention I also had this other meditation after one of the sessions we did to try to communicate with the aliens, where there were 3 spiritual beings in my house, and they were all dressed in suits, and they were pale, but they were not faceless, and they also were very engaged with me, which I didn't think they were the MIB. I thought that they may be the actual problem, that the MIB was like saying like, hey, there are some things out here that are symptomatic of the veil being thin, and they're there, and you need to like get that
Be
shit out
careful.
and be careful. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's funny that you're. I mean, I'm sure at some point I've heard about the MIB being faceless, but I've also heard like very weird alien looking, like not like actually like they're grays, like or something like that, but just very strange looking, like men, very pale men wearing lipstick is another thing that I've heard a lot
Yeah.
about. Is like the red lipstick.
Yes, I do know what you're talking about. I think that is something I've seen as well, because I put sunglasses on mine, and I guess sometimes I don't think that they have sunglasses, like, because my guy didn't.
Yeah,
He just had no face.
that's creepy.
Yeah, and I was
Wait,
naked when I was looking out the window at him too, so I was like, had a duck.
Real vulnerable.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, I'm so scared right now. Hopefully he doesn't come into my house. And then I just went into my bed and I was like, nothing's gonna happen. And then I fell asleep.
Oh.
So like he was wearing a hood.
Dark face you couldn't see.
And well, I could see white, like a stark white contrast.
But no
But
features.
No features.
No,
like no eye holes, no mouth hole. Yeah.
I'm really upset.
You're upset by this.
I'm deeply upset by this.
Well, okay, so here goes in part 3 to the story. There was another meditation I did in January, I think. So this was after some of our communication and me seeing all this stuff. And I think the MIBs elected another alien species. I would say alien species, but there's another being that wanted to help protect me as a journalist, archivist, investigator, like person, because they basically the being appeared as a microphone, and it was basically the MIB were in the meditation. The MIB were basically just like, and I know this is very like conversational, but that's kind of how it happens. They were just like, yeah, so you need an actual method of protection, and we need you to know that you are being recorded at all times, so you need to be careful what the fuck you say. And I was like, word, okay. And then so I have this amulet for protection that I use, and a way that I use the amulet for protection to understand like when something does happen too. Like I have the wherewithal to know if something does happen, but yeah, so that was kind of that. So like I guess maybe there is cause for concern, ? However, because of the universal law, how much do I care, or how much do I just want to live my life?
We have to live our lives.
Yep.
We have to just live.
That's where I'm at, baby. Men in Black.
I mean, the government's fucking falling apart anyways. No one's gonna come. Even if you are being listened to, no one's gonna come.
Yes. And who's to say that the Men in Black intergalactic agency, whatever agency makes up this like being that they think they have some duty to the universal law, who's to say that shit isn't fucked up on a macrocosmic level, right? Like if our shit's fucked up, I'm gonna assume theirs is too.
Yeah. Nobody's coming out. It's I'm so tired. I can't make more of a face. Like I can't do more than that. I'm just like it's just
but like, isn't it hilarious of a conversation to have too? Like at the end of the day, it's like when you get to the MIB part of the conversation about UFO lore, you're like, I'm just gonna go to bed.
I'm done with this. The one I remember, maybe it was because these podcasters were Canadian, or mostly Canadian, because one, they have a Virginian. But I love the alien theorists theorizing. They were talking about like MIB stories, and one of them was like, a lot of these stories take place in Canada, which is really funny to think of the Men in Black being Canadian. They're like, don't make us come back here, okay? Don't make us come back here, okay?
So funny. That is so funny.
Right. But yeah, once you're at this part of the lore, you're like, like you said, I'm just ready for bed now.
Which now the hardest part about all of it is getting to the real root of it, universal law.
I feel like there should be theme music, but again, so tired. I can't like do. I don't know.
Good job.
I don't know. Thank you. My MoonX app told me it was a good day to write music, so there you go.
That was cute. Yeah, I like that jingle. I like that jingle.
Did it.
I have universal law as a concept in a lot of applications: law, science, ethics, philosophy, and metaphysics.
Yes. I came across it, and like I thought it was really funny. The law, like the Wikipedia one for universal law, it was very short. It was like an attempt to make it like moral, just like laws that can be applicable universally, blah, blah, blah. And then I looked up cosmic law, and that's where I found the 12 laws of the universe. Um, and
You want
it all sounds a lot like karma mixed with physics, which is
to, right?
a lot of the principles of like what I've learned about what karma is from studying Hinduism and Buddhism apply in a lot of these, or like a lot of magical
Yes.
applicate. A lot of I didn't realize the law of attraction was one of the laws in the universe. That's number 4 in my list. I don't know. The different lists have different numbering or whatever, but
Yeah, like I have this section in my notes that says other universal laws because I want to I have like a whole thing, but like laws of thermodynamics, laws of motion, the hermetic laws, which then I will say get kind of like podged into the new age 12 universal laws because I think the 12 universal laws aren't hermetic, but they're also not they seem like a what's the word, like rudimentary group of things.
yeah, they're like I read somewhere that the 12 universe are like an expanded based upon version of the 7 hermetic
Yeah.
principles. Like they're
Yeah.
like
It's like an
they're like adding to as the modern era goes. Like in the new age added to some of these and like kind of switch some things around a little bit.
I
Like
do think that because they're taking from Hermetic Kabbalah stuff, like they're botching sacred knowledge in a way because it's very bloggy now. Like you can just blog about the 12 universal laws rather than be like
well
true
it's
to the
not
tradition
it
of
doesn't
where that
seem like
comes from.
it's based on anything.
That's I guess what I'm trying to say is
It's
that
not for
it's
sure not Kabbalah. Like
well,
it's
but
the
like I guess what I'm saying is that when you read the blog, it says her like what I got in my Google searches was like
yeah.
the 12 universal laws as it relates to like Kabbalistic slash Hermetic like tradition, and then it says, well, these are the laws, and then you look up the Hermetic laws, and there those are listed on Wikipedia too, and they seem equivalent.
Mm.
But what I guess I'm saying is that the 12 universal laws is a specifically modern language to make it easier for the modern person to understand something that like took people like a lot of time to like make into a religious sort of doctrine or dogma and blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah.
It's
I
funny you found Kabbalistic. Like
Yeah, like Kabbalah stuff like popped up on my thing.
that's so weird. Kabbalah stuff did not pop up on mine. And I've done some research into Kabbalah. So if everyone who doesn't know, Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with the language of Hebrew, the 72 letters. Sorry, there's not 72 letters, so there's 72 names for God. Anyways, the point is, that's interesting. I never found anything about Kabbalah in any of the research that I did.
Well, I guess one thing I could say is that maybe algorithmically my stuff was giving me because I was also researching laws by religion, and so they could just have been hodgepodging my Google results to give me misinformation essentially. But my point is that because that happens in the modern world,
Yeah,
we're still fucked because we can't get up to the sacred text, which is like the thing you want to as a source go through when you're trying to find
yeah.
the source material.
And yeah, when I read from this is through the Wikipedia about like where the Hermetic, it's just philosophy. The Hermet, like what I saw, I mean, it wasn't even necessarily sacred text. It was just philosophy. It was just Greek
Yeah.
philosophy. It's not even like a necessarily a sacred text. And then some new wave, honestly, some magician from the 19th, 20th century fucking made it out to be like it's like sacred text or something like that. But it was and from Wikipedia, I saw that it was like an amalgamation of like the full philosophical thoughts, and but it's supposed to be based on Hermes and Thoth, which are completely different religions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just philosophy.
Yeah. Which is eventually what I got into. The only other laws I'll mention are like the Christianity laws, because I did write down Christianity, karmic law, and Buddhism, and indigenous ways of knowing. Um, it's hilarious to me because when I was looking into Christianity, there's this concept of Christianity like a universalism, and this sect of Christianity focuses on reconciliation through Christ, which I was like, not bad. Or there's the other half of it, which is the Ten Commandments at face value in a Judgment Day / rapture narrative alongside the compassion and love, but only for the saved, where reconciliation could pop up, but then it also could turn into the evangelical spreading of Christianity, more important than reconciliation itself with Christ. Anyways, it's hilarious to me because like Christianity is just like,
You're with us or you're not.
yeah. Anyways, karmic law in Buddhism, karma, it's the Sanskrit term for action, doing. Right? Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Situated in the rebirth cycle, so you have to understand like the karmic rebirth cycle, or like how that applies to the Buddhism. And also, like, karmic law is so plentiful. I don't even know what to say about it. Do you have anything to say about it?
I yeah, there's so much. Like there's like there's karma as causality, there's karma, there's like ethicization of karma, like it's there's so much. I even read apparently that there's some parts of Buddhism and Hinduism where like karma has nothing to do with the rebirth cycle at all. That's not something I'm super familiar with, but that's something like that came up.
Yeah.
Usually they do have something to do with the rebirth system. There's collective karma, like you can have like family karma that affects your rebirths and the kind of problems. It can affect you in this lifetime, in your next lifetime. Your family karma can affect you. You can have specific problems like based off of like what ancestors have done. You can have immediate karma. Like I think I was reading that like you having negative thoughts like affects your happiness, and that's like an immediate form of karma. Like if you're having horrible thoughts, it's like you're unhappy immediately. It's
I think it's interesting.
It's fascinating. I mean, it's all like the whole point of karma is kind of the universal law because it's like all about like balance, right? It's like what did I say? Like deeds lead to like effects. Like it just like you get what you put out is what you get back. Essentially, is what karma is like truly like and if you have intent to like your thoughts also have karmic power, which is in Taylor Swift's new album, that song Guilty as Sin, she has other line that says, someone told me once there's no such thing as bad thoughts, only your actions talk. And I'm always like, a Jew said that to you, because I can't think of a religion other than Judaism where thoughts don't have some sort of moral currency, you know what I mean? Like it's like karmic, like versus Judaism, they're like, oh, the only thing that matters is what you do. You can do something good and feel horrible about it and hate it, and you're still good because you did the good thing. Like versus in Hinduism and Hinduism and Buddhism and Christianity, it all like your thoughts do matter in some way. Like if you've committed adultery in your mind or heart in Christianity, you've committed adultery, period.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's so funny because I grew up in Christianity, but I don't know that much about the Abrahamic faiths. Like, I tend to like want to learn more about Jesus himself rather than Christianity or any of the Abrahamic faiths as a whole. Although I do like get into it sometimes, but it's always interesting what I learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, this like crazy rabbit hole I went down was Immanuel Kant's categorical imperative, the universal law, as he wrote as an ethicist.
Oh my god, do I still have it memorized?
I can read it.
Hold on. No, I don't still have it memorized. But it's basically like don't do any. I mean, is it basically the golden rule?
No.
Okay.
It's way more complex.
Okay, no, I don't remember. I mean,
maybe, but like I had. It's just funny to me. I think it's so funny to me.
So act in a way that you wouldn't want everyone to act in, or something like that. Like
you're close. Act only according to that maxim, whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. It sounds sexy. I'm not gonna lie. Um, so Immanuel Kant argued that the supreme principle of morality, again, an ethicist, is a of principle of principal rationality, another concept that he dubbed the categorical imperative. He categorized the categorical imperative as an objective, rationally necessary, and unconditional principle that we must follow despite any natural desires that we may have to the contrary. All specific moral requirements, according to Kant, are justified by this principle, which means that all immoral actions are irrational because they violate the categorical imperative, which I think is maybe where the golden rule stuff comes in. But it's funny because I went this like weird route with it, and I was like, okay, but I want to know then if the categorical imperative like exists like this, what did Kant think about mysticism and the phenomenal and the noumenal or whatever? Because I was just like, okay, like he's seeming to like basically what I kind of had written down was something about the law of divine oneness, which comes from a lot of different traditions. Recently more packaged as like a spiritual self-help concept about interconnectedness, but in mystical traditions within all different kinds of religions and spiritualities and cults teach the mythic tradition of the divine law of oneness, or the opposite, which is like there is nothing and the oneness is nothing. And they're not, but the mystics really practically are not dogmatic. They may teach out of a tradition, but they're not dogmatic about it. Many philosophers agree that there are two mystical experiences. This is how I'll explain the difference between extrovertive and introvertive. Extrovertive is how someone realizes the one is in everything around him, including himself. And then the introvertive is the mystic will realize that the one alone is bare of any form. Which I think is interesting as it presents two options. Weird how we're talking about one thing leading to two options.
I don't know. It makes sense to me.
You know what? Makes sense to me is how, like, in my opinion, when I'm reading this, like taking it as face value, I'm like, then you could choose both also. Like like in my head, I'm like, you could choose both as another option. So then it just philosophy to me is so crazy because once you get down to that literal oneness, like when we're talking about that oneness, this other thing I wrote, it's even more fun. Okay, there's a difference between what is known and what is felt, because Kant intellectually came to the same he intellectually concludes the same thing, which is that the phenomenal world is not real.
Like the phenomena that we're experiencing, like the weather and the fucking
what we experience, what we know through experience, right? The noumena, which is what we know, what we like think, but we don't know through experience. It's like I want to say it's kind of like a intuition. But again, it's like deeply felt. And mystics differ from Kant in the way that they say they do feel it. Kant didn't ever feel that thing, and he never talks about feeling it, although he concludes the same thing about oneness itself, which is interesting. And so the difference between how like a mystic might describe it is like he says categorical imperative, but a mystic might say nirvana, the inner birth of Christ or Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, a spiritual awakening. And that is how a mystic will like deeply feel that those truths, those two options might be true. But Kant never takes up he said, like, it's funny because the philosophers that I read today were basically like, it's interesting if you take up the idea that you can get evidence that this thing leads to something. But ultimately, like, in our philosophical exploration over time, it actually just doesn't matter if we do. Because what we experience is the lens, you know what I mean? Like, it's all just so like, when I think about universal law in this conversation, I'm like, at the end of the day, it's all gravy, baby.
That melted me.
And it's so funny now that I'm sitting back having said all that, and I'm like, philosophy sucks. Whoever's listening to this, I'm so sorry if I botched it. And you're like, wow, I really wanted to learn something. And you were like so confused the whole time.
um,
I'm sorry. It's Goofy Power Hour.
I feel bad because I'm like, now I feel like I'm too tired to even have a coherent. I'm just like, yeah, well, shit.
Isn't that the
I'm
vibe
so impressed with myself that I vaguely remember. I remembered the gist of what the categorical. Never act in a way you wouldn't wish everyone to act in.
Yeah.
That's the layman's.
Yeah.
The
Well, it's
non-sexy.
interesting. When I got into the philosophy of it, they were talking about suicidality, like that kind of thing. And they were also talking about like helping others, right? The thing about philosophy is that you can talk about universal law all day, but then it expands from there.
Yeah, you could talk about any of the things forever.
Philosophy is,
Forever. That's the whole point of philosophy, is that you
yeah,
just keep arguing about the points.
yes. And
Um,
that's why people hate philosophers also, because they just won't shut the fuck up about shit that nobody is trying to engage in for that long. I'm not a really well-liked person.
No, I just think with the good place and whenever Chidi can't like fucking get his shit together and everyone around him was like, this is why everyone hates moral philosophy professors. Like this is not it. I have a life to live. I can't. You're acting like a dumb jackass. I can't do this.
Which is why I think being a mystic on top of it all is like the cherry on top of the cupcake. Because then at the end of the day, sometimes you're like, okay, yeah, the philosophy sucks, but what if aliens are real?
But what?
And then it's like, oh, it turns it into kind of like a game. Like,
I was literally gonna say it like a game. Like it's like
it feels
it's
like
just
a game.
why not? I don't like simulation theory, but what if we're just in a giant game of Sims?
Yeah. I love The Matrix for the fact that it was developed by two trans women. And so the allegory is a lot richer when you think about that.
I have been wanting to rewatch The Matrix recently, and that I'm gonna go do it. I didn't realize that was the case.
Yeah. Yeah. And also maybe watch The Men in Black if you feel like it, because that shit's
So
fun
good.
too. That's hilarious.
So fun.
It's so fun. Will Smith
I was
the Men in Black
I
song.
was gonna say, fucking Will Smith, always a delight. Always happy to see him.
So today, take everything with a grain of salt, but Katie does have a bit of wisdom to give to you as we part our ways.
As we say goodbye, I have a quote from Brihadaranyaka Yaka Upanishad, chapter 4, part 4, verses 5 through 6. As a person acts, so he becomes in life. Those who do good become good. Those who do harm become bad. Good deeds make one pure. Bad deeds make one impure. You are what your deep driving desire is. As your desire is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. As your deed is, so is your destiny. We live in accordance with our deep driving desire. It is this desire at the time of death that determines what our next life will be. We will come back to earth to work out the satisfaction of that desire. But not those who are free from desire. They are free because all their desires have found fulfillment in the self. They do not die like the others, but realizing Brahman, they merge in Brahman. So it is said, when all desires that surge in the heart are renounced, the mortal becomes immortal. When all the knots that strangle the heart are loosened, the mortal becomes immortal. Here in this very life, as the skin of the snake is sloughed onto an anthill, so does the mortal body fall, but the self, freed from the body, merges in Brahman, infinite light, eternal light. Infinite life, eternal light.
Wow.
Sorry, it kept being good, so I kept going.
No, I was like cheesing the whole time because here's the thing: is that felt right. It felt mystical.
Thank you.
Yeah, I felt it even if I understood maybe 3/4 of it.
The Upanishads gets pretty lofty. I have read all of it. Did I understand all of it? Of course not. It's been a long time since I studied religion in school, and we didn't exactly read straight out of the sacred text. This is Ignaz Iswaran's translation. Give
Wow.
it a read, guys.
Yeah. And also maybe read some Immanuel Kant if you feel like it, just to brush up on your philosophy.
Why not? You could have the categorical imperative memorized. I used to in college, and now I only remember the gist.
Oh, it was something about the oh, I was gonna ask the audience a question. Now I remember.
Yes, do
Um,
that.
and like after you guys read all this stuff, or if you listen to the episode and you're just having these thoughts, slide into our DMs on Instagram at Files from the Other Side and let us know if you have deep feelings or deep thoughts that you'd like to
That,
share about universal law. If you're like, you know what, this thing needs to be said, say it to us and let us talk about it on the podcast.
yeah.
We invite you to engage in that way because,
Why else would we do this?
well, yes. And in episodes like this, I really realize how, like, some things, like, have cause and effect to other things. And I think our
That's one of the 12 laws of the universe.
yeah, right? So it's like, I feel like, you know, the conversation doesn't have an end necessarily. It only blossomed into, like, this new
We're
plant.
opening it to you.
Yeah.
We're giving you the opportunity to engage.
If
Go
you would
look up the
like,
12 laws. I didn't write them. I wrote them all down.
go look up anything we said today.
Also that.
Yeah. Tell us
Also
what you
that.
think.
Let us
Thank you
know.
for listening to this episode of Files from the Other Side. You can find us on Instagram at Files from the Other Side. Share this podcast if you like it, and don't forget to subscribe.
And we'll see you on the other side.